afternoon. It is your lunch hour and it is heating up outside. We remain in a weather impact alert today and again for Wednesday for high heat and humidity, pushing the feels like temperature up above 100 degrees. This is our first heat wave of the summer, but also it's our first prolonged and a little more intense heat wave that we're dealing with. So we really want you to pay attention to those signs of heat related illness. Hydrate, limit how much time you are spending outdoors. That way you can stay safe. Now, outside right now, it is 12:30. I want to show you what it actually feels like outside because just in the last 30 minutes, we're seeing a couple of areas with a heat index above 100 degrees. That includes 102 up in Dalton, 101 in Athens, and 100 degrees, the current wind chill in Duluth. Here in Atlanta, we are at 98 degrees for the heat index right now, but across the board, just step outside and it is hot, it is humid. It really kind of just hits you in the face when you walk outside like a blowtorch. So very hot outside right now. The actual temperatures are in the low 90s as well and will be hotter today than where we topped out yesterday. We hit a high of 94 on Monday. Today we're forecasting about 98 is the potential that we could make it to this afternoon. You can see we've got a couple of fair weather cumulus clouds off in the distance. About 2 hours ago when we did our last one of these extended updates on 11Alive Plus, we saw just haze in the sky. It was hazy, sunny, and a very sultry start to the morning. Well, now we're seeing those cumulus clouds increasing. Now, these are not going to lead to a high rain chance for today, but a couple of them could continue growing a little bit taller. It's currently 91 in Atlanta. I want to show you, though, that dew point. You see that dew point, 71 degrees right there? That's a measure of how sticky or comfortable it feels outside. When it's up in the low 70s, it is feeling oppressive. It is feeling very sticky, muggy, gross. We've seen the last couple of days that we start off in that territory and then in the afternoon it drops into the upper 60s. We could see that dew point dropping a little bit this afternoon, but overall today it's not just hotter than it was yesterday, but it's also more humid outside as well. So big picture, heat dome is over us today, and through the end of the week and into the weekend, our temperatures are going to stay hotter than average. But the heat itself, the intensity of it after tomorrow will start to back off just a little bit. This shows you the expansive size of the heat wave right now, with heat alerts, meaning heat advisories or extreme heat warnings, in effect all the way from eastern Texas up through the Canadian border with Maine. A lot of real estate. Well over 100 million people that are under some kind of heat alert for today. That includes an extreme heat warning for Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. 4 major cities up along that 95 corridor in extreme heat warnings. For us here locally in Atlanta, we're not going to reach the criteria to be put in an extreme heat warning. It doesn't mean, though, that the heat is not dangerous to be outside in if you're overexerting yourself and outdoors for long periods of time. We have a heat advisory, which is in effect at 1 o'clock today, and it runs all the way until 8 o'clock tomorrow, during which the heat index, as we go through each afternoon and evening, today and again tomorrow, could climb above 100 degrees and as high as about 107 in a couple of spots. Now, if we're going to see that 107 threshold met, it's probably south and east of the Atlanta metro area, closer to Macon, southern Georgia, central Georgia, kind of out towards Augusta. First here in the metro today, we'll top out maybe about 103 or so. That heat index maybe as high as about 105. You can see, though, across the board in the metro, over 100 degrees for the feels like temperature today. North Georgia mountains running in the upper 90s for today, and then tomorrow will be almost feeling as hot, but not quite there. Now, today, in addition to just being hot and humid outside, we're also very close to the record. We are forecasting 98 degrees. That would only be 1 degree off our record for the day of 99 from back in 1988. But regardless, we're 10 degrees above average for this time of year. Now, big picture. The heat index is going to stay above 100 today. Tomorrow, I believe it makes it above 100 in Atlanta again. Later in the week, though, as we increase the chance of showers and thunderstorms, this is kind of going to cap off just how hot we can get each day and what that feels like temperature will ultimately end up being. Because remember, the heat index, the feels like temperature, is a calculation which it's like a math equation. It takes into account the temperature and the dew point. And when we combine those together, we get the heat index. So if we don't have quite as hot of a temperature, even though it's as humid as it was the day before, we may not see quite as hot of a heat index. So today, tomorrow, around 100 degrees, just above it today. And then for Thursday, we'll see that heat index backing off a little bit. So good reminders as we are well into summer. We've got a lot of kids that are out at summer camps. You know, I know folks are going to their neighborhood or area pools and cooling centers and splash pads, and that's all great. But if you are outside and not in the water, and even if you're in the water, remember to hydrate. As you're sweating and you're out in the sun, your body's losing all those fluids from your body. And your process of sweating is how your body stays cool during these hot days. If you're not replacing the fluids that are lost, you start to get dehydrated, and that can lead to heat exhaustion if you're out in that hot sunshine. So if you start to feel a little bit faint, lightheaded, dizzy, you notice you're sweating a lot and you're just, feeling very lightheaded, you've got heat exhaustion. You need to go into cooler temperatures, hydrate, put a cool compress on your forehead or the back of your neck or on your wrist as well. Help cool your body down because you don't want that to escalate into a more dire situation. That dire situation is heat stroke. Those conditions are listed on the right side of the screen, and that is a medical emergency when you have heat stroke. If you have sweat so much and you're so dehydrated, your body's so hot that it can't even cool itself down, you're not sweating anymore, that's an emergency. And at that point, you got to call 911. Now, we've got a lot of hot weather today. What we do not have in the picture today is a high risk of any rain or thunderstorms on the map. For today, the rain chance is capped off less than 10%. So as we go through the afternoon, these clouds are bubbling up. They may lead to a few hit or miss showers and storms, but for most of us, we're dry, and we got to wait until the second half of the week to bring back at least a chance of pop-up showers and thunderstorms. So in the meantime today, unseasonably hot and humid will push that heat index up above 100 degrees for several hours consecutively this afternoon. As we go into tomorrow, the heat index again in many locations will make it back around or just above 100 degrees. So another heat advisory for Wednesday for high heat, high humidity, pushing that feels like temperature above 100. For Thursday, we bring the temperature down a little bit. And we talked about because the temperature's not as hot, it's harder to hit that same heat index. So a lot of us Thursday will be upper 90s to low 100s for that feels like temperature. And then by Friday, it comes down another little notch. So our temperatures are at their peak today and tomorrow. Then the end of the week, the heat wave's still going strong. Today is day number 5. We'll go into 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we'll go into 10, 11 before things may break by early to middle part of next week. But we will bring in the chance of daily pop-up showers and storms once we get past today. Today is hot and the rain chance is very minimal, about a 10% chance at best of a pop-up stray shower or thunderstorm. Tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, into the end of the weekend and next week, we're going to be back to this more typical summer-like pattern where we bring in the afternoon daytime heating, which kickstarts some popcorn showers and thunderstorms. When I say popcorn, it's like you take a handful of M&Ms, you're throwing them on the ground. A few of us get them. Not every part of the ground is covered up. Well, popcorn storms pop up in the afternoon, pop, 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 like popcorn, and they kind of collapse and rain themselves out. And then it fuels more storms. So they just kind of start popping up here and there on the map, and that's really the pattern that we're going to be in starting tomorrow. Now, with so much heat and humidity, though, there's a little more fuel for these storms. So the Storm Prediction Center has placed parts of North Georgia in a level 2 risk of severe weather for tomorrow, and that's the northeast corner of the state, and a level 1 risk everywhere else. For Thursday, it's a level 1 risk. Are we looking at a high chance of severe weather? No, but a few of the storms could be on the strong side, and the main threat is going to be damaging winds from any of these storms that develop. And we're also going to get some locally heavy rainfall. We do not this time of year have a high tornado threat within this type of setup, and I don't expect that for tomorrow either. There's a very low chance that the strongest of storms could produce small hail, but because it's so hot, we don't really have the same colder temperatures aloft to produce hail versus some of the storms we did a couple weeks ago with small pea-sized hail. So I really think it's a damaging wind threat, and that's really about it. Forecast track hour by hour. You can see this afternoon we bring in the added clouds. There is that slightest bit of a chance that there could be a pop-up shower or storm. Most of us are dry. We'll go through the overnight, very mild and muggy start, but more clouds around Wednesday morning, and that's showing you all that moisture starting to really ramp up. And that will lead to some widely scattered showers and thunderstorms by Wednesday afternoon. So today looks mostly dry. Wednesday, look at these popcorn storms popping up. And it's kind of interesting if I actually take this forecast track out to 2. Watch how the storms, like, you can almost see the outflow boundaries on them. So we start to see a few of them bubbling up. As they collapse, we get storm outflow. It's kind of showing this kind of donut shape around the main part where the storms began to develop. And then it helps new storms form later on. So don't take verbatim where those storms are popping up or the timeline for your location, but just know that tomorrow does bring finally a bit of an opportunity for some showers and storms. And then Thursday again, mostly dry start to the day, and it's later in the afternoon that a few of these showers and storms will develop. This model is not excited about those Thursday storm chances, but other models are a little bit more. Now, we've been watching the tropics as well, even though we're focused on all this heat and storm risk here in Georgia. And I do want to share with you this. As of 10 o'clock this morning, we have our first tropical storm of the season. And if you're looking at this graphic and you're thinking, tropical storm, I don't see anything on this graphic. Yeah, I know. It does not look very impressive. There's a little area of counterclockwise circulation here. These, what is left of thunderstorms, did blow up a bit overnight over in this region, and this is now Tropical Storm Andrea. Now, I've been calling it Abysmal Andrea because it looks pretty pathetic on satellite image. And to be frank with you, if we didn't have such great technology orbiting the Earth that shows us all of these different components of clouds and the cloud temperatures and the estimated wind speeds and all of that, this probably wouldn't have been a named system. But it's not 1950, it's 2025. So we have great satellite data. So technically this thing early this morning reached the criteria to be called a tropical storm. So this is Tropical Storm Andrea. 40-mile-per-hour winds, and this is a fish storm. We call it a fish storm because it's really only impacting the fish and maybe some shipping routes, but not a lot of ships, I don't think, take this particular route across the Atlantic. But anyways, regardless, it's not going to last for very long. The conditions for wind shear and the ocean temperatures become much less conducive for it to sustain itself as we get into later tonight and tomorrow. So this will likely fall apart. And this is the official kind of track and bullet points from the Hurricane Center. Winds of 40 miles per hour moving east-northeast at 17 miles per hour. And they think it'll stay at a tropical storm at 8 o'clock this evening. We'll see. And as we head into the overnight, it will become a post-remnant low. So we have now used or wasted, whichever way you look at it, used Andrea, the A name for the 2025 season. So when we see the next system that could become a tropical storm, if it becomes named, the next name on the list is Barry. So in the meantime, we just watch and wait. And one of those areas we always look for this time of year is the main development region. Now, this is typically not an area that we watch for high risk of development until we get into kind of later July, really August, September, October. We see these little tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa. One of those tropical waves is right here, another one right here, another one right here. But the environment right now was not very conducive or favorable for any of these to develop into a tropical system. On the north side of them, there's a lot of dry air. And also there's a lot of Saharan dust. This is our map which shows the Saharan air layer. And you see this red colors, that's really more dense and thick Saharan dust, highly concentrated. And that's actually, a plume of it is traveling across the Atlantic into the Caribbean by the end of the week and eventually this weekend up into the Gulf. So dry air is associated with that Saharan dust. So that's another component of why we don't expect any other areas to develop in the next 7 days. Closer to home, the next 12 hours, we are all focused on this high heat and humidity. It is hot, it is humid out there, and just be smart about it. Heat's the #1 weather-related killer in the United States each and every year on average. And I know many of us here across Georgia have air conditioning systems, right? And that keeps us cool during the day, but some folks do not. And one of the things that makes heat waves so dangerous is that the overnight temperatures also do not get very cool. So if you don't have that great AC system, or if you're an unhoused person, you know, your body doesn't have the opportunity to cool down and reset in the overnight. So there are many cooling centers in each and every county across the metro that have been opened during this heat wave so that people can find a cool place to be. So I encourage you, if you know somebody who doesn't have, maybe their AC is not working or something like that, make sure they're getting to somewhere that's cooler. We don't want them to get overheated, especially young kids that might be out at summer camps, and the elderly. Their body's natural air conditioning system, that process of sweating, doesn't work as efficiently as us grown-up adults. So I just want you to be aware that those are the most vulnerable populations that we watch for during heat. 7-day forecast in red, you see our weather impact alert today and tomorrow. Temperatures today close to records. That feels like temperature between 100 and 105. For Wednesday, it is hot and humid again, pushing the heat index above 100. But we also have a few pop-up showers and thunderstorms for the afternoon and evening. Later on in the week, we take those numbers down a bit to the low 90s. Daily pop-up showers and storms will be a possibility each and every day. That heat wave, though, is going to keep going for at least 10 days strong. close your blinds and curtains during the day. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, 76% of sunlight that hits a standard double-pane window turns into heat. And if it's really hot, FEMA suggests putting aluminum foil-covered cardboard over your windows to reflect the sun's rays. If temperatures cool down at night, energy experts recommend opening your windows on opposite sides of your home for a cross breeze. Plugging in some fans can also speed up that process. As for your ceiling fans, make sure they are spinning counterclockwise so the blades are pushing cooler air down. To cool your body, experts recommend a cold washcloth or an ice pack on your pulse points. Columbia's Climate School recommends the pulse points on your wrists, neck, elbow, feet, thighs, temple, and forehead. If you don't have an ice pack, pop a wet washcloth in the freezer. Avoid using appliances that give off a lot of heat, like your oven, washer and dryer, and dishwasher. Try using a microwave or outdoor grill to cook. And if you have to wash your clothes, use cold water, dry air if you can, and do your laundry at night.